just pull up my introduction here. Make sure everybody is doing good. Okay. We are live on YouTube. We are live on X. We are live on Instagram. We're everywhere, Dan.
I
So,
love it.
okay. I'm going to read your wonderful bio. Um, we keep it really casual around here, Dan. So I'm just so honored to be with you. So today I am joined by Dan Dominguez. He is the CEO and founder of Why Not Leadership, where he helps leaders and teams learn how to lead differently. He starts with self awareness, purpose, and authentic alignment. Dan brings over 30 years of leadership experience and more than 20 years spent in corporate leadership roles. During that time, he led high performing sales organizations and teams that collectively drove billions of dollars in sales while building cultures rooted in trust, clarity, and long term performance, not just short term results. And I didn't know this about you, Dan, that you are a veteran with 11 years in the U.S. Army as an airborne ranger and quartermaster officer. Today, Dion works with executives and leadership teams who are ready to challenge traditional leadership models and create real impact by understanding themselves first and leading with intention. I'm excited to have you here, Dan, to talk about why leading different matters and how
Yeah.
this fits in with the whole Catholic economy. So, thank you so much for being my guest.
Well, thank you for being on, Brooke. I am a big fan of Catholic Owned. Just found out about you a few months ago. And as soon as I looked at your mission, I looked at what you were doing, building the Catholic economy and introducing Catholics to the businesses that are out there that are owned by fellow Catholics that we can support. I just knew I had to be a part of it. And when you started this live stream and you sent out an invite, I was one of the first to reply. I think I didn't want to be the first guest, but I almost was. So I love that you have me on, and like I said, I'm here to support you and what you're doing. I think it's a wonderful mission, and the thought of building a Catholic economy appeals to me.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. It's just an honor to have you in our community. And and that's what it really is about is everyone has such unique experiences to bring to the table and to bring to the Catholic economy. And that's why I was so honored to have you be one of my first guests because you have so much experience out in the world, out in the secular world, decades of training and helping leaders to lead differently. And so it's so valuable. So I just am honored to have you here and discuss what it's like to bring such a wealth of expertise into serving the Catholic world.
I love how you said that you found a nice way to say that I'm old, and I have been around a long time. But I think it's important. I think we have all different types of experiences out in the world, right? And when you get to a certain age, you realize there's a lot of things that you've done that a lot of people haven't done yet, and you've experienced it, and you can talk to people from that place of experience. And there's all kinds of ways to gain experience, but doing it the wrong way, doing it the hard way, is not one of them. So I've tried a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I spent time in the military, and I spent 17 years in corporate leadership. And what I've learned is I wish I'd known this sooner, Brooke. Um, all of my problems that I ever had, whether it was in the military as a leader or whether it was leading sales teams to sell billions of dollars worth of quotas, um, it all of any problems that I ever had usually started with me. And that's why I think self-awareness is so important. And I think there's something biblical to that, right? You don't look at everyone else and see what did they do wrong. You say, okay, what am I doing to cause that? What am I doing that's causing our company to have that impact? If you're a young leader, if you started a company, the folks I love working with, Brooke, that get the most out of their work with me is you're a young entrepreneur, you started a business, and next thing you know, it's 10 years later, you're in your mid to late 30s, early 40s, you've got 20 employees, you've got a warehouse, you've got a business, and you've never really studied or learned how to lead people. And so you're having turnover issues. Your best person just came to you and said, I'm leaving. I'm going to go work for your competitor. And you're like, what happened? Uh, so a lot of those issues start with, okay, how are you leading, right? What is it? What are the habits that you have that are causing people to say, you know what? I think I'm better off taking a pay cut and going to work for your competitor, or getting taking that pay raise that they've been offering me, because I don't like X, Y, and Z about what's going on here. So leading different is about starting with yourself, starting with self-awareness. You and I went through one of my self-awareness exercises, and when you understand what drives you, then it's easy to understand why you behave the way you do. And it's also easier to curtail those behaviors that can lead people to not want to do business with us or be part of our business anymore. So, that's in in a nutshell where my work begins, where what motivates me to help people lead differently.
Yeah. Our session was so awesome. I was sharing with Mateo about it. So much to unpack there, but I was hoping to. I wanted to ask you: were you Catholic during all of that experience? During when your time in the military, your time in corporate, um, because
Yes.
those are not Catholic in nature things.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, how was it doing all of those things as a Catholic?
Yeah. So yes, I'm a cradle Catholic. So I've been a Catholic my entire life, and my mother was one that made sure we went to mass every week when we were kids. Went through all of the sacraments, but my real faith journey didn't begin until probably late in my 50s, or in my early 50s, late 40s, where I started really looking at, okay, am I really living my faith? Am I really doing all the things that I'm supposed to do? You go to confession once a year, you go to all the big masses, and you sometimes skip mass because something came up, and that wasn't truly, the way God really meant us to do that. So I've been on this very intense journey over the last 7 years, right after I left corporate in 2019. So yes, I was a Catholic. You know, there's room for our faith everywhere. Are there things that I would have done differently? For sure. Had I been more involved in my faith? For sure. Because when you are in a corporate sales environment where the everything's about the bottom line, right? How can and you're working for a publicly traded company, so you get evaluated every year based on your performance, and there are pressures to do things. I can honestly say I never did anything that went against my Catholic values. In either in my corporate career or even in my military career, I've talked to a lot of priests. We have special dispensations when we're defending our country in terms of things that might happen when you're in combat. I thankfully was not in combat, and spent my entire time in a peace environment, doing a lot of training, getting ready for when and if that situation happened. Um, but I think there are great people who are doing those careers this week. As a matter of fact, on Friday, for those of you who follow my podcast, I'm interviewing Father Peter Pomposello, who was an Army recruiter. So he's a chaplain in the United States Army. He's currently a chaplain in the United States Army, stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. But he came on to talk about his mission, which was, at one point, his job was to recruit soldiers into the Army. So recruit chaplains into the Army. So he's looking for young men willing to become Catholic priests, but not only become priests, also join the military. So working with the archdioceses of around the country and finding qualified young men who could come into the military and be chaplains. So they could be already ordained, or they could be entering the seminary, and then after finishing seminary, coming into the military. So it required a lot of coordination. That is a great leadership challenge, and it's one of the ways, obviously, he provided ministry to people in areas where normally they're not going to find a priest. You're more in a war zone. You're lucky to find a chaplain, and once in a while you get a Catholic priest who's a chaplain, and you get a chance to talk to them. So, yeah, well, they're both. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You just have to keep it front of mind.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, and I had the pleasure of visiting with a new member today. They are also military family. They live on an Air Force base. and we were chatting about the military archdiocese. Is that the correct terminology? The priests in the military archdiocese,
Yes.
they kind of seem to each kind of have their own mission, and they're doing their own things, obviously under the archdiocese. But some of the stuff that they're able to do, for example, some men's groups around the
Hmm.
base, things that a parish priest maybe wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
It's so cool. When we sponsored the National Eucharistic Congress, we were across from the table. Our table was across from the military archdiocese table.
Right.
So they have a special place in my heart. We spent 3 long days together out there. So
At the Eucharistic conference, it's interesting. There's something beautiful about having mass outdoors, and that's something that military chaplains get to do because sometimes you don't have a church, and so we got to, we set up the altar and we prepare, and I still do that. We get the opportunity to do that with the North American Explorers, the young Catholic boy and Girl Scouts. They're called the Federation of North American Explorers, and they try to do that as much as possible. So whenever we can get a priest to come out, but there's something beautiful about having mass outside in nature. And sometimes it's freezing cold, and sometimes it's really hot. But I remember that fondly from my military service.
yeah, yeah. The priest that was there, I don't know if he makes these little altars, but it's like an altar in a box.
Uh huh.
I'm sure you've seen those. It
Yes.
just beautiful, is simple, but like handmade altar, and with all the things to store inside, and it just closes up like a little suitcase. You know,
Yeah,
I
we
think,
definitely saw that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just so beautiful because our faith is so rich, and like the church on the economic side, kind of swinging things back that way,
Yeah.
there are such a variety of Catholics who are involved in the Catholic economy.
Yeah.
And we have such a broad spectrum in our community and the people we serve. But one of the things that many of them have in common is they are leaders. And so I was hoping if you could speak a little bit to some of the challenges that your clients, the people in your circle have faced as Catholic leaders, lay Catholic leaders typically. I know you do work with religious as well.
Right.
But if you could speak to some of the challenges that Catholic leaders face, um, and maybe some words of wisdom for them.
Yeah. Well, I think we all when I was just talking to Gary Burry in Louisville, Kentucky, and he's a wealth manager. He runs an incredible organization it's a family ministry. I think here's the important part. We need to be boldly Catholic, but also gently bold. So we don't want to push people away, right? Um, so I think one of the things that I've done is as we've made this um, transition to really working with our fellow Catholics and being boldly Catholic and letting people know, hey, look, I don't only work with Catholics, but if you work with me, this is what you're going to get. I believe in life. I believe in justice, right? We look at the cardinal virtues, right? Prudence, wisdom. So, who doesn't want those things in the person you're working with? I believe in the 10 Commandments. So, if you believe in the 10 Commandments, whether you're a Catholic Christian or you just as a worldview, you believe that it's not okay to steal. It's not okay. There's obviously we've got to love God, right, and then we've got to love each other. But then after that, those are all pretty darn good rules for life. So it's not so much that I'm going to ram my Catholic faith down your throat. It's that I'm going to come to you from a place of discernment. I'm going to come to you from a place of justice. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm committed to doing it. And you're going to get a just product for a just price because I believe in that. We're not going to take advantage of you. So there's all those things that you get from a person who is grounded in the Catholic faith, and I think that's important to know. I was on the phone with Chris Pereira with the Tepeyac Leadership Institute recently, and so their mission is We need leaders in the lay world, right? Lay leaders who are not afraid to express their faith, because what happens when God isn't there? Um, the devil loves a void, right? And so if we're not there, and we're not there to represent our faith, who is? And so Chris is big on, hey, you need to join your school board. The reason we have schools that are teaching stuff that is so far outside of what we believe in our faith is because we weren't there, right? We didn't have a Catholic on that school board, or four or five that could vote in the majority to say, you know what, we're not allowing that book in our school. Our kids should not be reading about such a taboo topic at the age of 5, 6, 7, first, second grade, third grade. We're not gonna allow that. But if we're not there, someone else will be there. And so that's a big part of that mission. So I think there's the calling to be involved in public life, to be on boards, to be involved in our communities, and to not be afraid to say, by the way, the reason I'm voting the way I'm voting is because it goes against my beliefs as a Catholic. We live in a country where we have freedom of religion. We have the freedom to choose our faith and to proclaim it and to assemble. So, as a veteran, I take that very, very seriously. People have died so that we could have that right and that ability to express ourselves. And yes, people that oppose our views have the same right to express themselves, but I think there's more of us.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we can't be afraid to lead. And sometimes, leadership isn't always bold. Leadership doesn't mean you have to run for president, run for governor, run for mayor. Sometimes it's showing up to a school board meeting. Sometimes it's just being present and allowing people to know that you're not going to allow that to happen in my kid's school, and that there's more than one of you, right? And so that leadership looks like you might have to make some phone calls. You might have to get some people to show up to a meeting. We're facing that in my neighborhood right now. There's some changes that the county is planning on making, and a bunch of us in the neighborhood didn't like it, and it took one person to make a couple of phone calls, and a bunch of us showed up, and we said, hey, we're not having that. And guess what? Our elected officials are there to serve us, and they listen. And so we just have to remember that we have that power in such a wonderful country that we live in, where we have the freedom to do that.
Mm. So many nuggets there, Dan. Yeah, Christopher, and Tepec Leadership. We've been long partners with them, and it's just so beautiful the work they're doing. I actually have the honor of going through the program this year, and so that's going to be starting, and I'm just so grateful for the work they're doing, and for their support. It really is by supporting each other that we can all make a difference. And so Christopher is a great partner and supporter of Catholic-Owned, and I'm so grateful for that. I wanted to touch on one thing that you were mentioning about like serving also non-Catholics. This is something that a lot of
Mhm.
folks uh, we talk about all the time, and I even have had one conversation with, I believe she was a therapist, and something for women in the women's health realm,
Right,
some type of counselor, and she is a Catholic, clearly Catholic on her website,
right,
especially in that sector. The pro-life stance is important that they make that clear.
right,
And she shared that there was a client that was not religious, was actually, I think, an atheist or agnostic, something like that. And she told this lady, I came to you because I knew you would not tell me to get a divorce. So
mm,
even though herself, she didn't hold those beliefs, by that provider communicating, these are my beliefs, this is what we believe, which I know is something
right,
you're big about communicating. This is what we believe here at this place of business. um, Even those who maybe disagree, they know what they're going to get, and a lot of times they will come for that, even if they're not perfectly aligned, because they can understand and it's clear. And
Right.
there's a trust there, even if the values are not shared. So I'd love
Yeah.
to hear your insights on that, because I find that to be so profound.
Well, and it's interesting when Catholic owned, when we joined Catholic owned, and you featured us, I put out a social media post exactly saying exactly that. Look, we don't hide our faith, we don't soften it, and we're not going to apologize for it. We're a Catholic owned company. Now, our faith isn't something we leave at the door when we serve our clients, right? Because our beliefs shape how we lead, how we serve, and how we show up. So our beliefs shape, they ground us in the inherent dignity of every person. We take a people first approach over profit first. We believe in integrity, humility, and stewardship, service before self. What the big thing that I work on with leaders is leadership, and leadership is service. The greatest leader ever was Jesus Christ, and he said himself, I came here to serve, not to be served. And so if we remember that great leadership starts with serving others, then it helps us ground ourselves in work that makes a difference. So while it doesn't mean we only work with Catholics, it means we work with everyone through a lens of respect, conscience, and deep care for people. Because at its core, leadership is moral work. And so for us at Why Not Leadership, our faith provides that compass that allows us to do the work in a direction that helps us stay aligned with our faith.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Dan. It's always such a pleasure to get together with you, and we could we've spent hours together before, so we could keep on going. Anything else you want to make sure we cover in this context of leadership in a Catholic economy that folks should hear?
I think it's leadership in a Catholic economy means again being bold, and being gently bold, because one of the things that we have to remember is there are people out there who, just like this woman who came to the counselor and said, I knew you weren't going to tell me to get a divorce. Look, people know what to expect from us, and we have a responsibility to represent our faith well. So that's the first part, and I think that the second part is we need to ensure that in everything we do, we are being open to welcoming other people in, because I believe that when you tell people what you believe, you attract people who believe what you believe. But you have to know what you believe in order to say that. So once you've said it, the other thing you're going to do is you're going to repel people who don't believe what you believe, and that's probably okay too. But there's a third option, and the third option is you might make some people curious, and so you have to be prepared for those conversations. If what you say, if what you do, if the way you are running your business, the way you're leading your life is you're living, to St. Francis famous quote that you preach the gospel always and use words when necessary. So if the way you're living is attracting people to the faith, then you're doing it right. And then you just have to be prepared to welcome those people when they're curious and have a gentle approach to it so that we're not driving them away.
Mm, beautifully said. Thank you so much, Dan. For those watching, we do have Dan's links in the description. Be sure to give him a follow. Of course, he's a member of Catholic Owned, so thank you also for that, Dan. Follow Dan. I know you're really active on LinkedIn. You have your podcast on LinkedIn, on YouTube as well, right?
And yes, and on Facebook.
And on Facebook. So wherever you're watching this, search Why Not Leadership and you will find it because we're on those too.
That's
Thank
right. And the
you.
podcast is the Lead Different podcast.
The Lead Different podcast, and that's on all of the podcast channels as
Yes,
well.
and we're going to have you on soon. So be looking for that episode. We'll be having Brooke on the show soon.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Dan, and thank you for your service as well. I didn't get to say that before. Thank you to everyone who has joined the show today. I hope this was enlightening, fruitful for you, inspiring you to lead differently, and in the context of wherever you are in the Catholic economy. Thank you for joining us. God bless you, and we will see you on Friday. Bye.